Welcome to Climbing Together, the small business experience. I'm Beth Houtrow, founder of Climb the Small Business Book Club, and every episode I talk to a small business owner about a mistake that they've made and what they learned from the experience. Mistakes are inevitable, perfection's impossible, so let's embrace the mistake. And today we're so excited to welcome Jubilee to the podcast. Jubilee, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Hi, Beth. Thank you for having me. My name is Jubilee. And I'm based here in San Francisco. I'm a designer and an artist. I've been living here for 5-6 years and in the Bay Area for most of my adult life. And I started a clothing line here in San Francisco. My mission is to make beautiful clothing, like undeniably beautiful clothing. That's also sustainable, ethically sourced and produced, as well as gender expansive.
Nice. And where can we find your clothes?
I sell online on my website, jordanjoel.com. And then I also have clothing in some boutiques here in San Francisco, Queer Arts Featured and Micro Black.
Very cool. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So we are here to talk about mistakes as always. So tell me about a mistake or a misconception that you had as you were launching your business.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I've always known I wanted to start a business, but I didn't necessarily know what that was going to be. And I definitely wanted creative components to it. And seeing my parents grow up in their independent businesses, I saw how much work and dedication it would require. So I kind of took my time to settle on what I'm really working on, which is the idea of making clothing and beautiful clothing that I'm inspired by. But because a lot of my education has been kind of seeking out resources and being self-taught, I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made to date has been not seeking out more professional advice sooner or earlier on in the process. So I think that the moment I really actually sought out a consultant in the fashion industry, that was the moment for me that I really actually started seeing more leverage in my progress. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's amazing how much the right person can leapfrog you forward, right? Without having to figure it out all on your own.
We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. In fact, a lot of it is not reinventing the wheel. It's about being true to who you are and what you want to be working on. And yeah, exactly. Seeking out advice in lots of ways, but specifically in this mistake, I'm talking about industry professionals, really seeking out people that have experience and have done components of it and learning from that and bringing it in.
100%. That's awesome. All right. So if you had one piece of advice for entrepreneurs out there, what would you tell them?
One piece of advice for entrepreneurs is to recognize your strengths first and foremost. What are your strengths and what are you bringing to the table? I think it's really important to have something with the business that you're pursuing, there's something that you're really bringing to the table for it. Mm-hmm. And what is that thing? Another piece of advice is to think about where we will develop. So maybe it's a strength that you don't have, but it's a strength that you can acquire with time and progress. So I think that has been a really valuable tool I've noticed within my own progress is things that I thought I wasn't necessarily going to be good at, I am good at, and I need to lean into that. And then finally, recognizing your weaknesses and recognizing where it's time to seek more advice and maybe delegate.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Being willing to, one, celebrate your strengths and lean into them, but also recognizing those weaknesses, knowing that means you can't ignore that portion of your business. Because sometimes people I'm not good at numbers. They just don't pay attention to their finances and things like that. Right. But recognizing your weaknesses and then taking action to improve on them or to find someone who can support you in that place is great advice. All right. Very cool. So this podcast is brought to us by Climb the Small Business Book Club, and our co-sponsors today are the Transgender District. But we have two major tenets at Climb, and that's continual learning and community. So starting on that continual learning vein, I know you have a book that's meant a lot to you in your personal and professional growth. What's that been?
Oh, yeah. So the book that I chose to share with you is a book called Homosexuality and Civilization by Lewis Compton. This book is very specific to me and my mission statement and like why I'm doing my work. I definitely personally find a lot of inspiration in history and in knowledge generally. So I think that right now, today, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot going on, and I find a lot of grounding in referencing what I'm doing to a story. So this book has been fundamental for my life generally, but also really clear, a source of like gravity, foundation in how I'm pushing my business forward and like what my core values are.
I love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a great thing to consider that sometimes it's not a business book that is really core to how we build our business, and that diverse learning is so essential to being a well-rounded entrepreneur, a well-rounded person, and then a successful business owner. So very cool. And I know you also have other ways that you like to learn. What is that? How else are you out there learning?
I mean, I am a dedicated student. I love learning in general. I always have. So I kind of in every way possible. I do really like podcasts. I think that they're a great way to be moving and working around things and listening to stuff and learning that way. So one podcast that I learn a lot from is called Dressed, A History of Fashion. Again, that one's more specific to actually fashion, and it gives me a lot of grounding and foundation around what I'm building and working on. And then, of course, seeking out again classes, mentorship, consultations. Those are also really great ways that I will learn.
Very cool. Okay. And so, last, celebrating the organization that brought us together, the Transgender District. Tell me about what it's meant to be part of their cohort, what you've learned from them, and the community you've built there.
Yeah. So really connected to this whole conversation and education, really, and seeking out resources that we need. The Transgender District has this program, and there's a lot of coursework in it that has been really instrumental to my progress and really the resources that I need right now. So the program itself that they've offered is, of course, there's like business classes, marketing classes, finance classes, which are just, it's really nice to have an incubator and a time to really do focused work on these aspects of things that I really need to know better. And in some cases, I'm realizing like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this, and this is good. And other times it's like, oh wow, yeah, I really need to dial this in. So yeah, their program has been really instrumental in just me kind of feeding the knowledge that I need to have in order to have a successful business.
Nice. And talk to me about the community of people that are in your cohort. What has that meant to you to have other entrepreneurs that you're working alongside?
Oh, I love it. For one thing, I don't like, I feel like it's so great I love an icebreaker personally. Like, I love a reason to be with people and a subject to focus on. It's just like, I know like a lot of people are like, you're very extroverted. And actually, I don't really identify as extrovert. I really identify as introverted. And um, I've always found that like having something to focus on around a group of people is a
Hmm.
really great way to build friendships and connections and impressionable relationships. So for me, like being in this program with a bunch of like-minded entrepreneurs, and we're all working on different things. We all have different businesses that we're building, but they're the essence of what we're all doing, which is like we have a dream, a vision that we want to bring to life, and we are ready to take steps and kind of go over details on what that looks like. That has been absolutely priceless and just as valuable as the program itself. Um, yeah.
Nice. Well, I love that you said I'm also an introvert who people think is an extrovert. And I love what you said about liking to have an icebreaker, a way for you to connect, right? That you don't have to push yourself into a conversation. It's designed for you. And that it works so nicely to have a smaller group of people that you're connecting with. That is exactly how I approach networking. It's why I love these kind of, I mean, it's 20 people, right? Smaller groups, but
Yeah.
reasonably sized. You can connect with each person. So I love that you talked about that, because we talk about being introverts at Climb pretty often, and it can be a tricky thing in the business world. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. Well, Jubilee, this has been our podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Absolutely, Beth. I really appreciate it. And you are, of course, one of these mentors that I'm talking about. You've been really helpful and giving me some solid feedback and advice. So I really appreciate you and your podcast. Thank you for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by Climb the Small Business Book Club, where entrepreneurs go to learn, discuss, apply, and grow. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or follow us on Instagram at Climb Book Club. And always remember, mistakes are inevitable, perfection's impossible. So let's embrace the mistake.